remembered everything. Every face, every scream, every drop of blood, and that's why she had to kill. At 3:17 a.m. on October 15th, 2023, police surrounded a quiet suburban home in Portland, Oregon. Neighbors pressed their faces to windows as officers dragged Dr. Sarah Chen from her front door in handcuffs. The woman they arrested looked nothing like a monster. Small, well-dressed, with the gentle manner of someone who spent her career helping people heal from the worst nightmares. But Sarah Chen wasn't like other people. She had hyperthymesia, one of the rarest conditions on Earth. She remembered every single moment of her life in perfect detail. Every conversation, every face, every traumatic story she had ever heard as a forensic psychologist. While most of us forget painful memories over time, Sarah's brain held on to everything. Every detail of every case, every tear shed by every victim, every moment of horror described to her over 15 years of helping solve crimes. Here's the part that shocked investigators. How does someone who helps trauma victims become a serial killer? How does a doctor who dedicated her life to healing become the very evil she once fought? 12 victims. 2 years of carefully planned murders, all connected by one invisible thread that took police months to discover. The media called her the Memory Palace Killer. Families called her a monster. But her defense team claimed something far more disturbing, that Sarah Chen was as much a victim as anyone else, a prisoner of her own extraordinary mind. Today we're looking into one of the most psychologically twisted cases in recent history. Was Sarah Chen evil? Or was she broken by a gift that became her curse? We'll let you decide. What we discovered about memory, trauma, and murder will change how you see justice forever. Sarah Chen was born on March 12, 1985 in Seattle, Washington. At first, she seemed like any normal child, but by age 8, doctors had a name for what made her different: hyperthymesia. Sarah could recall every single day of her life since age 4 in perfect detail. She remembered what she had ate for breakfast on random Tuesday mornings. She could describe the exact weather on her 7th birthday. She remembered every conversation, every emotion, every tiny moment that most people forget within days. Her parents thought it was amazing. Their daughter was special, a genius with a perfect memory. Sarah sailed through school with straight A's because she never forgot anything she learned. She chose psychology in college, drawn to understanding how the human mind works. After graduate school, she joined the FBI as a forensic psychologist. Her perfect memory made her incredible at her job. She could remember every detail of witness statements, every inconsistency, every small clue that others missed. For 15 years, Sarah was one of the best in her field. She helped solve some of the country's most brutal crimes. She interviewed victims, studied crime scenes, and remembered it all with photographic precision. Then came 2019, the case that broke her. Riverside Elementary School. A quiet Tuesday morning destroyed by gunfire. 7 children dead. 23 wounded. One shooter who killed himself when police arrived. Sarah was assigned to interview the survivors. 47 children between ages 6 and 11. Each one had witnessed horror that would take years of therapy to heal. But here's what made Sarah different from every other psychologist on that case. She couldn't forget what they told her. "I remember little Emma Rodriguez," Sarah later told her therapist. She was 7 years old. She hid under her desk while the teacher bled to death 3 feet away. She described the exact sound the blood made dripping onto the floor. The way her teacher's eyes looked when she died. Sarah's colleagues went home each night and eventually the worst details faded from their minds. that's how normal memory works. It protects us by letting painful things blur over time. But not Sarah's memory. I don't just remember trauma, she revealed during her therapy sessions. I experienced it again and again, exactly as it happened. Every scream, every moment of terror. It never gets easier. It never fades. The nightmares started immediately. Sarah would wake up screaming about things that never happened to her. She dreamed she was hiding under school desks. Dreamed she was 7 years old and watching people die. Then came the drinking. Sarah had never been much of a drinker, but alcohol made her perfect memory fuzzy. Was the only thing that could quiet the voices in her head. Her husband Michael noticed the change. She became obsessed with other people's pain, he told divorce lawyers. She couldn't talk about anything else. She'd sit for hours reliving cases from years ago. Sarah lost 30 pounds in 6 months. She stopped sleeping. The children from Riverside slowly began to heal through therapy and time. But Sarah couldn't heal. Their trauma had become hers, and she would carry it forever. March 18th, 2021. Detective Mike Harrison was found dead in his living room. 1 bullet to the chest, no signs of struggle, nothing stolen. Harrison had worked with Sarah 3 months earlier on a brutal child abuse case. Twin sisters, ages 4 and 6, who were tortured by their stepfather. The worst part wasn't the physical abuse, Harrison had told Sarah. It's how terrified those little girls were. The older one kept saying, "Please don't hurt my sister," even when we were trying to help. Sarah remembered his every word. 2 months later, Judge Jennifer Walsh was shot in her car. Walsh had presided over family court for 8 years, hearing disturbing child abuse cases. Sarah had testified before her dozens of times. "Some cases keep me up at night," Walsh had confided to Sarah. "I can't stop thinking about what that stepfather did to that little boy." Victim number 3 was defense attorney Robert Steinberg, found dead in his office. He defended a man accused of molesting his daughter. The case fell apart. The man walked free. "I know he did it," Steinberg had told Sarah. "I know he hurt that little girl, but I had to defend him." By now the police were baffled. 3 random murders with no clear connection. But what they didn't realize was that the killer was helping investigate her own crimes. Sarah had inserted herself into all 3 cases. The murders continued. A pediatrician who treated abused children, a crime scene photographer, a social worker who described horrific cases. Each victim had shared traumatic details with Sarah, stories that normal people would forget. But Sarah remembered everything. Her journal revealed her twisted logic. I carry their pain forever. They get to heal and forget. That's not fair. They dump their trauma on me and move on, but I'm stuck with it forever. By victim number 8, FBI agent David Morrison was brought in. We're looking for someone with intimate knowledge of each victim's trauma history, he told the task force. Sarah sat in that briefing room, even offering suggestions about the killer's motives. Detective Lisa Park noticed the pattern first. Every victim had shared trauma stories with someone. One name appeared in every case file. Dr. Sarah Chen. Surveillance was placed on Sarah immediately, but what they saw shocked them. Midnight drives to victim locations, Sarah sitting in her car, talking to herself, having conversations with people who weren't there. Sarah was planning her final kill. One last collection before ending it all. Sarah had always used what psychologists call a memory palace to organize her thoughts. It's a mental technique where you imagine a building and place different memories in different rooms. For most people, it's just a study method. For Sarah, it became something terrifying. By victim number 8, Sarah started seeing her victims inside her memory palace, not as people she had killed, but as guests who'd come to stay. She would have conversations with them in her mind. They would tell her their stories over and over again. Detective Harrison lives in the basement now, Sarah wrote in her journal. He tells me about those twin girls every day. He seems grateful that someone remembers every detail. Sarah's grip on reality was completely gone. She could no longer tell the difference between her own memories and the traumatic experiences others had shared with her. When she closed her eyes, she was the abused child. She was hiding under the school desk. She experienced every moment of pain as if it happened to her. But Sarah had convinced herself this was noble work. If I hold all the trauma, no one else has to remember it, she told her therapist during her final session. I'm like a container for pain. I collect the hurt so other people can heal and move on. Her final target was Judge Robert Mills, 58, who presided over family court for 15 years. Mills was retiring in 2 weeks. Sarah had testified before him countless times. He'd heard stories that would break most people. Sarah broke into Mills's house at 2 a.m. on October 14th. She expected him to be asleep, but Mills suffered from insomnia. Years of hearing about child abuse had given him nightmares. He was awake, reading in his study. Dr. Chen, Mills was confused. What are you doing here? Sarah pointed her gun at him. You get to retire next week, she said calmly. You get to forget all the cases you heard, all the children you failed to protect. But I remember every single one. Mills managed to hit his panic button under his desk. Police were already on their way when Sarah spoke again. I'm going to take all those memories away from you. The children will be safe in my palace. You won't have to carry their pain anymore. Mills tried to reason with her, but Sarah pulled the trigger. Police found her standing over Mills's body, the gun still in her hand. She was muttering to herself about collecting memories. The children are safe now, Sarah told the officers as they cuffed her. I have all their pain. Judge Mills doesn't have to remember what happened to them anymore. Sarah Chen's killing spree was over, but her memory palace was more crowded than ever. Sarah didn't try to run or hide. When Detective Park read her rights that October morning, Sarah simply nodded and said, I killed them all 12 of them. The confession came pouring out. Sarah sat in the interrogation room for 6 hours, describing each murder in perfect detail. She remembered everything. The time of day, the weather, what each victim was wearing, their last words. Sarah's trial began 3 months later. Her defense team argued insanity due to perfect memory overload. Sarah's brain couldn't filter traumatic memories like normal people, testified Dr. Alana Rodriguez, a leading expert on hyperthymesia. Most of us forget painful details over time. Sarah literally couldn't forget. Every traumatic story became a permanent part of her memory. But prosecutor Janet Walsh wasn't buying it. She's a cold-blooded killer who used her rare condition as an excuse, Walsh told the jury. She planned these murders for months. She knew exactly what she was doing. The jury agreed. Guilty on all 12 counts of first-degree murder. Life in prison without parole. Today, Sarah sits in maximum security. She spends her days writing page after page of detailed memories, every case she's ever worked, every trauma she's absorbed. Prison guards report she talks to herself constantly, reciting old cases word for word like they happened yesterday. But the case isn't closed. Police are investigating other suspicious deaths going back to 2018. Sarah's journal suggests the murder started years before Detective Harrison. The killing didn't make it stop, Sarah wrote to her former therapist. Nothing will ever make it stop. I thought I was collecting pain to help others, but I was just adding to my own. Police now believe Sarah may have killed up to 20 people over 5 years. Cases ruled accidents or suicides may need to be reopened. The Memory Palace killer story may not be over yet. The Sarah Chen case leaves us with questions that have no easy answers. Was she a monster who used her rare condition to excuse cold-blooded murder? Or was she a victim of her own extraordinary mind, broken by trauma no human brain should carry? Medical experts are still divided. Some argue that hyperthymesia, combined with constant exposure to trauma, could drive anyone to violence. Others say millions of people face trauma daily without becoming killers. The case has already changed how trauma counselors work. New protocols now exist for professionals who show signs of absorbing too much secondhand trauma. But the biggest question remains: can perfect memory drive someone to murder? What do you think? Was Sarah Chen evil, or was she destroyed by a gift that became her curse? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe Wicket Crime Stories for more cases that challenge everything we think we know about crime and justice. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person isn't the one with violent thoughts. Sometimes it's the ones who can never forget.